Dear rectors, dear staff members of the UNICA network, exploring the path to the future of European higher education is a well-chosen topic at the right time. We in the Education Committee of the European Parliament are just beginning to take a critical look at the Erasmus Plus program, which was relaunched in 2021. I'm the so-called shadow rapporteur of the Socialists and Democrats group. Of course, we will put a special focus on the European universities which have been part of the Erasmus Plus program since 2021. With the 49 of UNICA's 56 member universities in the European Universities Alliance, you create the opportunity for students to obtain an internationally competitive degree through the cross-border combination of studies in different EU countries, strengthening their intercultural competences and preparing them for the global challenges. You know that the European Universities Initiative is one of the most important ones, which we want to contribute to the completion of the European education area at European level. By 2024, more than 500 higher education institutions are to be networked in 16 alliances. To achieve this, the last call has just been made. With approximately 2,500 higher education institutions in the EU, about 20% of the institutions will then be networked in this context. Politically, the question must be now how we want to deal with the alliances in the medium and long term. In the long term, our aim must be to maintain and strengthen well-functioning higher education alliances while gradually reducing funding from the Erasmus+. In all likelihood, for the university, it will stay as a project funding, therefore, as a time-limited allowances. You know that only in very limited cases is there something like institutionalized funding from Erasmus+. But this cannot be considered here because of the size of the European University Initiative, since the Erasmus Plus program is also intended to provide funding in all other areas of education, such as school education or vocational education and training. We will have to continue to pay attention to a balance in the promotion of all educational areas as well as youth and sport promotion from Erasmus+. It is important for me to emphasize once again the goal of the initiative, which is also that Erasmus+ provides the impulse for networking. Erasmus+ funding was successfully primarily when the networked higher education institutions recognize the inherent value of the networking established during the term, so that they are already prepared in the long term to continue this network even with less and one day without the start-up funding from the program. How this can be achieved in the best possible way must now be discussed among you, well planned and also reflected back to us. Add to this the consideration that 80% of universities in the EU are not yet networked. It is obvious that there will be a demand for the possibility of further calls to form networks. At the same time, we are receiving more and more reports that due to inflation and cost increases, flat rates funding amounts elsewhere and Erasmus+ funding are no longer sufficient to cover the costs, so that we are once again running the risk of not achieving the desired opening of the Erasmus+ program to less financially well-off people across the board. Making this possible is a political priority for Social Democrats. And finally, the entire medium-term financial plan of the EU is under considerable pressure after Corona and because of the consequences of the Ukraine war. All signs indicate the already existing alliance must address sooner or later their future existence independently of Erasmus+ funding. Now and in a timely manner, we need viable strategies for continuation that are then also supported politically by a majority. Three other aspects play an important role beside money. The European higher education institution must not lead to a two-class higher education system in which students from university that are not networked in this way would have the impression that their studies are worth less. Therefore, we will also push for more cooperation and better accessibility beyond the networks. The success of the joint European degree certainly plays a key role in this. This is the second aspect that is important for me. You know that for years I have been calling for automatic recognition of learning periods or degree completed abroad or other higher education institutions. I have the hope that this will be most likely to succeed in the higher education sector by means of the degree. And thirdly, last but not least, we must not forget in all our efforts for the European education area that all these efforts must also serve to overarching goals, namely to successfully continue the Bologna process in the higher education area on the one hand, and to achieve the educational goal within the framework of the Sustainable Development Goal on the other. We are not doing all this as la poula. In the end, the added value from all the efforts must be remarkable for every single student. Studying is more flexible, easier to implement, making studying more attractive overall, and thus reduce the dropout rate. In short, create an optimal learning environment in which everyone can develop freely and meaningfully. In this way, we will have a significantly greater potential of bright minds available to us as society as a whole than before. And the learning environment should also be fun and enjoyable for learners. Count me in for this discussion process, which will certainly not be easy. Let us continue to work together to transform European education's landscape to provide students with a first-class education and prepare them for the challenges and opportunities of our globalized world. Thank you all for your commitment and support in realizing this project, and wish you stimulating discussions and a fruitful conference. Thank you very much.